on the city level. So I just would like to fully agree that this will be one of the solutions. And of course, we have to keep the dialogue with the US.
Yeah.
I was going to just add on to that. So if anyone has questions about how to engage the US market, go to cities and states. Mm-hmm. It's a very different conversation. There is a huge agenda that we need to accomplish. Cities and states are not slowing down when it comes to the blue and green economy.
I mean, I think that's one really strong message and takeaway already, perhaps also to the young innovators and entrepreneurs in the room who are thinking like, who do I call now on the other side? But there are plenty of people to call.
So call me. And then my colleague, Lisa, if you can just raise your hand, from the state of Illinois. We're here with the tag team with the Midwest delegation that's ready to have these conversations with the innovators, technologists, and startup entrepreneurs in the room.
And that's an area that's really in common with what's going on in Europe, the power of the community and energy communities in general taking responsibility for their energy use and investments and innovation as well. And Chicago has, in the US, I would say we're ahead of the game in terms of the application of microgrids, for instance. Bronzeville is a community in Chicago that was one of the leaders in this. It took advantage of federal government investment, but has really taken leadership in applying the technology. And we're just starting to see, after the big storm we had in Ireland, I'm from Dublin, now microgrids and local energy to support resiliency has become a huge priority there as well. So we're going to see this more and more.
I'm just going to change track a bit. I'd just like to bring the other 6 billion people in the world into this conversation about the wobble between transatlantic relations and start talking. I mean, we had some fantastic startups yesterday from beyond the OECD, but what they need to get to scale might be different from the way we scale things in the European and North American context. And I wonder if we could just talk about the implications of that a little bit as well. That actually, how we scale stuff in very well capitalized markets and very rich infrastructure context is very different. Because some of the startups here are trying to scale, not in the context of this wobble, but how might this wobble also change the way we open up to investing in other regions in a different way? I think that's a possibility of being an opportunity space for Europe and the North America to think about.
Yeah, Corinna, I would love to bring you in on that, especially as there's so much uncertainty. I mean, I come from a development corporation field, and with everything that's happened with USAID, but also the voices coming from UK, I mean, there's just a lot of insecurities at the moment, and yet it's so important. I think we all agree that we strengthen these global partnerships and support countries in the global south. How do you think Germany and Europe can step up to that?
I mean, we already have a lot of partnerships with different countries, and also we as dena, we support with the energy partnership the German government. I think one thing is very important. We need more independency. So we were very dependent from Russia. So after the war, the war of aggression from Russia, it is very obvious that we have to diversify our collaboration, and that's a huge potential in the African continent and in the Asian continent. And the German government is already doing a lot of this collaboration. For example, we have a very strong collaboration now when it comes to hydrogen or derivatives with Namibia. I mean, they have the wind power, they have the space, so that's part of the future, how we will see the partnerships and where we have to invest. On the other hand, I would also like to underline that we should also focus on a very strong European voice. We have to strengthen Europe. So in this geopolitical situation, there's also a chance then for Europe, and there is still a lot of homework to do also here in Europe as well.
So I think 3 things. One is we're home to a nonprofit organization called Current, which is a 501c3 that's Chicago's water innovation hub. They've supported 40 unique startups in water tech, and they haven't had any geographic restrictions, so anybody around the world that contacts Current can get access to the hub. They just landed a significant National Science Foundation grant that could be over $100 million that's focused on the future of water innovation in the blue economy. And so what's been super supportive about that is not being hyper-local to Chicago Midwest, but opening it up to larger geographic university partners, national labs, other partners from around the world. And then the second item is the Chicago Quantum Exchange, which has been hyper-focused on quantum technologies and the applications in multiple industries, especially when it comes to sustainability and climate tech. And that's just been open to the world, right? And so we've been hearing hearing feedback from our Chicago partners that every week they're getting outreach from technologists, innovators, and startup entrepreneurs. And we don't have any restrictions on that. We want to make sure it's open to the world and that we're having a service and partnerships. The last thing I'll share is this idea about reimagining economic development, because my predecessors, I think, would say, I won't talk to you unless you're moving your headquarters to Chicago. And my tone has always been, how can Chicago, Illinois, the Midwest can be your best partner for growth? And I think one of the reasons why it's so important for us to be here in Germany is that it's one of our most important markets when you think about our Midwest delegation that's here today. And so this idea that we can both pursue inclusive economic growth and job creation, support our entrepreneurs and innovators, support companies that are expanding in new markets, and everybody could win, that's extremely important to talk about in this kind of day and age, right? It's not this going to be competitive, that we're all going to lose environment that sometimes the narrative can be. I think we're here today to make a very strong statement that we want to partner with you, that we're open for business. And I think one of the things that's been extremely important that a Chicago business executive once shared is that in this era of maximum noise and maximum uncertainty, it's now more important than ever to lead with humanity. And I think one of the things that's really important with economic partnerships is this focus on humanity, being deeply invested in our people when you think about workforce development and entrepreneurship. And I think Germany, plus the States, plus this audience in the room, I think all feel that way, and I think all believe in that principle.
Yeah.
I can't but concur. In 2017, we adopted a new vision, which was humanizing energy. And we still spend, I think, 90% of our time when we talk about energy transition as talking about supply substitution, rather than the entire gamut of innovation that's required across a very complicated system and set of relationships. And it's really, I just want to applaud the way Dana is taking forward the Start of Energy Transition Awards to really try and push the boundaries and connect the dots between energy and other things that are required to be connected in order to get energy transitions to move, including people and communities, as well as the industrial link, the industrial policy link, as well as the demand side, not just the supply side. So I just think that's humanizing energy is really understanding that energy is a system that's got people in it. And actually it's about wider and wiser uses of energy, this transition. It's not about winning on the supply side.
And maybe we can talk a little bit more about how we can ensure that innovative potentials are still available to people in different places of the world. Mark, you mentioned earlier harnessing AI. We talked very briefly about smart grid technology. How can we ensure that cutting-edge technology, as well as perhaps the more frugal innovation needed across the bandwidth of renewable energy markets, are available to people across the globe where they need them, especially whilst cooperation is perhaps becoming more transactional than it was in the last decade?
So, well, I'll start off with, I think Europe can learn a lot from China. The question is it open to learning with other regions? If you look at the smart grid developments and you look at grid strengthening, the world, it's quite an impressive feat of what China has done with its transmission, its electrification system, and its penetration of renewables and linking to other things. So I would be saying there's a lot of learning around the world, and one of the challenges is, as we strengthen Europe, can we also be open to new partnerships and learnings from other regions, including the Middle East, where there is also an awful lot of grid modernization going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, projects like NEOM in the Middle East, where, for large-scale renewables and hydrogen, we can learn from that. But I'll go back to energy communities. I think that in terms of the developing world needing basically the same technology that we need here to learn how to make a local community self-sufficient with renewable, sustainable energy, demand management, smart systems, that the innovations and the technologies are the same. And so we can really take advantage of investments in a developing world, along with investments in kind of community architectures and market structures to advance the sustainable picture everywhere, with as we said, humane solutions. And the investment opportunities throughout the world for that technology are tremendous. there's been decisions about USAID that are very painful in terms of financing some of that, but we have many other organizations in the U.S. that support those kinds of investments because they're good investments. They're long-term investments. They build growth that those companies can build on. It is an opportunity for Europe to step up, though, and really take a leadership role in sharing those technologies and promoting those technologies around the world.
Maybe just quickly before I pass it to Corinna, or just quick, who are going to be those organizations who are stepping in? Like, who do you see taking more of a seat at the first row seat at the table, so to speak, now that these gaps are open?
Which specific organizations?
Yeah, or like which type of organizations? Where do you think this momentum is going to come from?
Well, I think the private organizations like Gates Foundation and things like that those folks will be stepping up, and organizations here in Europe, in the UK, and Germany, and throughout Europe. I think there's a lot of opportunities there for investments that have a lot of potential.
A huge focus for us is diverse and emerging fund managers in growth capital and private equity and venture capital. So many of them who are focused on sustainability and climate tech. And these are much more smaller funds that understand the importance of investing in underserved and underrepresented entrepreneurs in this space. And I just feel like they're going to change the face of investing when it comes to climate tech and sustainability.
Yeah. Sorry, Corinna, please.
Yeah, I just want to say, so it's not only an investment, it's also, to be very clear, we are also dependent on these countries. So when it comes, once again, to hydrogen, as an example, Germany will have to import around 70% of hydrogen from other countries, of course, also from our European partners. But when it comes to derivatives, then we need other parts of the world. We need South America and Africa and so on. So it's the key is then collaboration and partnership. And then when it comes to China, of course, we work also closely together with them in the building sector. There are competitors on the one side, but on the other side, we can also learn from them. I mean, they focus very much, as you said, Angela, on green markets, on green steel, for example. So that's then, the partnership, the collaboration, learning from each other will be also key in the future.
Do you see any potential sort of conflicts of interest when it comes to Europe's energy security needs that have increased since, well, latest, of course, since the Russian attack on Ukraine, and that kind of being the air in Europe, and then looking at these sort of new partnerships and towards other regions, perhaps where they haven't been so strong?
I mean, of course, there is a change now in how we see it, the energy security issue. It's very obvious that also in Germany and in Europe, energy transition is security policy. And this is something where also the political framing is changing at the moment.
Yeah, I'd say for the last 20 years, we've encouraged people to think about energy transitions as a combination of energy security, affordability, and sustainability. And if you forget any one of those, you risk swinging from one crisis to another. And I think that the reality is Europe isn't out of the woods in terms of its energy security outlook for the next couple of years, but it's working very hard. Other regions are also leaning in to try and help Europe think about its energy security. There's a lot of diversification, right? But you've also got to be open to using gas or nuclear or the other assets that you've got. If you want to do green to green only transition, it's going to be very painful and much slower than you expect it to be. There's just not enough renewables to go around in the world at the moment. And the demand for power is coming like a tsunami from the future in emerging and developing economies, not just about the AI digital revolution. And so demand for power is going to be a fundamental reshaper of the energy transition investment space, I think.
Are there any, I'm going to open it up in just a second. I'll ask one maximum two more questions. Any concerns regarding the weight of responsibility now perhaps on the private sector or even philanthropic organizations, foundations to fill spaces when we're in a time where perhaps others might say we need more public spending, a stronger presence of the public sector?
So the last couple of years in energy transitions has also been shaped, at least from Southeast Asia and other parts of the world, by a concept of blended finance. that it's no longer about philanthropists over here and the private investors and venture cap over there. So there is this challenge in, as I see it, in innovation spaces, that there is an increasingly global scale of technology, moonshots, big, mega, MAGA, whatever you want to call them, giga in some parts of the world, projects. And on the other side, there's these increasingly ultra-local, micro, off-grid, whatever. And in the middle, there's this whole bunch of mid-scale innovation that requires and benefits from blended finance and different types of capital scheme. And we're seeing a lot of those crowding in from Southeast Asia and from the Middle East. So I think the model of innovation and scaling innovation and the mechanisms of doing that are different in different regions, and how they might feature with each other is also an opportunity for many more entrepreneurs in different regions to get the attention and the financing they deserve.
Mm-hmm.
This AI revolution is now leading to a conversation on sustainable computing. And so this incredible demand for data centers that could be putting a stress on grid systems. An average data center needs 300,000 gallons of water daily. And so when you think about electricity and water access, and then you're seeing big tech doing private development deals where they're working with big companies like Invenergy, which is headquartered in Chicago, that's putting together renewable energy projects, so building smaller wind farms or smaller solar farms just to power that data center, which is fantastic because we're putting more in the system. But I'm getting really worried about if that's happening too fast and we're moving too quickly, do those developments only benefit that specific type of economic development and not having a real type of impact when you think about our neighborhoods, our communities, and the energy needs that we need for cities and states?
Yeah, which kind of sort of bring back what are the rules and regulations we needed to make sure that those kind of models actually benefit a community and are taking place in an energy community model, as Mark was saying earlier.
Yeah, and I think those companies, Google and Microsoft and Amazon are interested in advancing this energy sustainability picture for the whole world, and driving innovation and being willing to pay for the application of that innovation. So it's up to us to figure out how to take advantage of that and work with those companies to use that technology everywhere else it's needed, as well as powering their data centers. And of course, the applications that are made available through that artificial intelligence also benefit all these smart communities and energy use and demand management and flexibility. And so it's really an opportunity for a win-win situation with these artificial intelligence companies. EPRI is starting this group called the Open Power AI Consortium. It's already being supported by these Googles and Microsofts, as well as utilities and all of the other technology providers, to put in a common place, data and the applications that everyone can use to drive this picture.
I really hope you're right, Mark. I really hope you are. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to be a little bit more cautious about technology hype. A couple of years ago, we only talked about hydrogen. Now we seem to be only talking about AI. And I just worry all the time that somehow we immediately think energy transition somehow, at their root, always defaults somehow to a technology solution, as opposed to what takes technology to scale is the enabling environment and the community and the society and the benefits of using the energy that's associated with that technology. So I just do really think we need to have a much more sophisticated conversation about affordability and who has access to demand and what's the productive use of energy, rather than the wasteful but growing, potentially economically growth-orientated forms of energy, if we really want the world to be more sustainable.
So, additional point, what we also need is the right framework. We need planning security, and we need reliability. That's very important in Germany and also in Europe at the moment. And we have to focus also, especially in Europe and in Germany, on less bureaucracy. For everyone who would like to invest or whatever. So that's really something where we have to get a bit better.
I'll definitely sign up to that. Is there anybody who'd like to ask a quick question to the panel? Please give me a sign of your hand. I see one hand go up there, then a microphone will come to this gentleman in the middle.
Hello, everybody. Sarthik from Transatlantic. Quick question about the Inflation Reduction Act. So on the Congress, it was really good. I would say 80% of the fundings are still valid over there. But where do you see it in the long run? And I'm coming from hydrogen industry, so you know innovation is a big part of this industry right now. And if the administration of Trump it doesn't support, basically they are kind of like nuclear and oil guys. So where do you see that in a couple of years from now?
You want to start? I'll just say that, this concept of reindustrialization is going to build on a lot of the initial deployments have already been put in place with the Inflation Reduction Act. So I don't see the momentum really being stalled in terms of storage and hydrogen investments, as well as nuclear investments and with the data center explosion, we're going to need natural gas power, but we also need flexibility and all of these other resources. And the main initiative of the administration that's there now is they want it to be done in the U.S., which is compatible with the Inflation Reduction Act anyway.
I think what you're going to see is incredibly rapid movement from cities and states to fill in the gap. And they're getting really creative in trying to identify private sector partners, cities and states working together on filling the individual gaps. And so you'll see those states and cities that are going to step up to be saying, this was the right investment. We don't want this to go away. We're going to step up and fill the gap.
Is there one more quick question? Thank you. Thanks very much. If not, then we'll round it up on the... Oh, somebody's pointing to someone. Oh, then please go ahead. Over here. One more. Quick one, please. Sure.
Hi, thank you. My question was around the urgency to act, because climate change is like a tragedy, not of the commons only, but of horizons as well. So how do you get political institutions to act, in an urgent manner, which is beyond most political timescales? Thanks.
Oh, Angela, maybe you want to take that one first.
I'm going to take it in a different way, because I think there are political institutions. Our work on, we've been working in energy transitions for 100 years. So, and they're not just about technology substitutions, they're about societal transformations, industrial progress, you name it, right? I like this idea of the reimagining of industrialization and economy, because that's what we're trying to do. For the last 100 years, we've been gearing for a growth which is a rather extractive and destructive growth, and we're trying to think about that. So the question is, I quite often hear this as though everybody is switched on to climate change and somehow it's politicians or politics that's standing in the way. I have to say I find something very different, and it's different in different parts of the world. In many places, ordinary people, just cannot engage with the conversations that we are having with Wall Street terminology around energy transitions. We have to get a way of engaging many more people in understanding how energy transition affects their life and their role in it, right? Not to keep talking about climate change, but really, what does energy mean to them? How do they use it? How do they benefit from it? And then what are the choices that they have around the technologies and the decisions? At the moment, we have a conversation on energy transition, which is incredibly technocratic, very Wall Street orientated, and at 45,000 feet. When I go into some other communities and we talk about do they understand energy transitions or climate change, and they're very switched on, you get a different response. They go, yes, we understand. Yes, we want it, but we don't see how we're going to benefit from it. Yeah. So then you have a different conversation, which is really about justice. So sometimes people come to that conversation through affordability, through justice, through benefits to themselves. They don't come to it just through emissions, and we really have to change that.
And in the end, we need people to vote for the right parties to make the right decisions and move political institutions. Corinna, please round us off.
Yeah, very brief. I think we need very clear political goals, very clear climate change or climate protection goals. We have it in Germany, the climate neutrality goal in 45. We have a discussion ongoing now in the parliament on how to put it in the constitution, and we have it on the European level. And furthermore, we need a common vision of how the world of climate neutrality is. So that's maybe something we should a bit more work on, but we need clear political goals and commitment.
I'm going to ask you a cheesy question for the last minute that we have, but what do you hope is going to be the inspiration people take from here? Maybe also the inspiration Europe takes from dena and the activities you have, like the SETTF Festival, to set that vision.
I mean, it's fantastic to have all these different actors and so innovation partners, and to see, the new solutions and these inspiring environment here. So, and that's something we need then also for our work as dena, to believe in the solutions and to believe in the future and the ideas coming up.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Let's have a big round of applause for our opening panel, please.